So for those of you who did the workout on Friday, this will look somewhat familiar, but what we're going to do today is we're going to group specific muscle groups together. Like when we do a superset for legs, we're going to focus on legs for that superset. When we do a superset for chest and triceps, we're going to focus on chest and triceps for that whole superset. And if you weren't here, that's okay. This will all make sense really soon. So let's start with a warm up. This is 10 a.m. Tuesday strength. And if you've got two different sets of weights, that would be good, but it's definitely not necessary. And just remember, more than anything, just focus on the contraction. Like if you're doing a chest press, really focus on that squeeze through your chest as you do it. And you can get a lot out of it, even without weights. You can get a lot out of an exercise that way. Okay, so we're going to just do kind of a dynamic warm up to start. We're going to start with these little side lunges. And just be really mindful of your knees if you haven't really gotten moving this morning. You're not trying to go real deep. And if you'll notice, I'm sending my hips back. Okay, so it's not, you're not leaning forward. It's like I'm sitting back in a chair. Okay, so just stay here. Really roll your shoulders back, lift up through your chest, and you should feel your back start to engage. Couple more of these. Okay, we're going to do just some shoulder rolls to start. So roll in one direction. And the other. And now we're going to start to just make the movement bigger. Keep your arms bent. Just make the movement bigger. And back, same way. And then if it feels okay to straighten the arms and circle them forward, go ahead, but pay attention because this is where you can really start to feel a strain on your shoulders. Pull your belly button in, lift up through your chest. So we're waking up our core too. Other direction. And then let's alternate. Couple more. Okay, we're going to go into these good mornings. And remember good mornings, because when we get to deadlifts, this is going to be an option for you to kind of scale it back. So feet are about hip distance apart. Get a nice generous bend in the knees, hands behind the head, and then really engage the core. Get your back nice and flat. And you're only going to hinge forward as far as you can with keeping that flat back. And then you're going to squeeze your behind. And with a nice firm core, you're going to come up. So really focus on that flat back. There should be no rounding. Your elbows should be out parallel with your ears. They shouldn't be rounded towards your face. Couple more. Okay, and we're going to go into a standing crunch. So again, really engage the core. Few more. Okay. So we are going to start with our back. And just as a reminder, just like we did last week, as you go into rest in between sets, you have the choice to do some kind of cardiovascular activity for 45 seconds or rest. So it really comes down to, if you really want to focus on strength, then you do as much as you can. You make sure that you need that 45 minutes to rest, or if you either want to make it more cardiovascular, or maybe you don't want to push yourself that hard, maybe your baby in an injury or something like that, then you scale it back some and you use that 45 seconds to get your heart rate up and work on your cardiorespiratory system. So we're going to start with bent rows, and I want to recommend on this first set that you go light on your weights, just because we're still working on getting warm here. So you want your feet ideally probably a little closer than hip distance apart, because this is going to give you clearance. And just remember, you can always go to a chair and sit on the edge of the chair with a nice flat back, knees together, and row. And that's going to give you a little bit more support for your lower back. So put a nice generous bend in your knees with a flat back, just like we went into those good mornings. We're going to hinge forward and pull our elbows straight back towards our waist. If you struggle with these, I put a very brief video on the website that'll kind of help you a little bit more, so you can check that out and work on your form a little bit on your own if you'd like. 2 more of these. Okay, and now we're going to go into Superman. So weights down on your belly. Extend your arms out in front, or if that doesn't feel right, you can bring them out to 90 degrees. As you lift up, keep your legs straight, squeeze your behind. Roll your shoulders back and down. Three more. Okay, so here is your first opportunity for your active rest. So if you want to go into just nice steady spine, brace your core. You can modify and just step out, or you can just march in place, or you can rest. Few more seconds. Okay, so grab your weights, and if you used lighter weights last time, if you feel ready to move up to higher weights, you can. Remember, you can always go to the chair. So again, feet are close enough together where you've got nice clearance with the arms. Core is engaged. Knees are bent. Back is flat as you hinge forward. Keep those elbows hugged nice and close to the side. Remember, if you brace that core, that's going to help support your spine. It's going to help prevent back injury, especially in your lower back. One more, and weights down. We're going back down for Superman's. So again, arms extended out, roll the shoulders back and down. Keep the legs straight as you lift up. Three more. Okay. Second opportunity for active rest. You can go back to the jumping jacks, the modified jumping jacks, the marching in place, or you can rest. So go ahead and start, if you so choose, now. Few more seconds. Okay, one more set for back. Grab your weights. Get on the chair if you need to. Otherwise, remember that flat back. And the more you bend your knees, the more you can probably accomplish this. Brace the core around the spine. Remember, your core is not just on the front of your belly. It goes all the way around the trunk of your body. So hug all those muscles in to help support your spine. 5 more here. Okay, we're going to go down for Supermans. Really squeeze through that whole back chain as you lift up. Three more. Okay. Go ahead and come up. We're going to set up for our next superset, which is going to be legs. Legs always tend to be the most challenging for a lot of people because they're our biggest muscle groups. So we're going to go ahead and get those out of the way. So this is another opportunity that your chair might come in handy. Especially if you struggle with any kind of knee issues, what I want you to do is try a chair, any kind of piece of furniture that's the right height and that's steady. You're going to stand about hip distance apart with your feet. And that goes either for if you're using a chair or if you're not. Basically, the chair is here to support you. But either way, you're pretty much doing the same thing, except when you lower to the chair, you can kind of tap your weight and come up. Otherwise, feet hip distance apart. Fight against gravity. Fight against that forward fold. If you want to make it a little more challenging, bring the arms overhead and really roll the shoulders back and down. Two more. Okay, now we're going to go into deadlifts. So you always have the option to come back to these good mornings. And I really suggest if you struggle with your lower back, please don't do these weighted deadlifts. Especially without me there to help you, I strongly discourage you. But if you feel super confident and strong in your deadlift, then go for it. You also have the option to kind of do something in between a good morning and a deadlift. And that's, you come, like you're gonna do a good morning, but your hands are in front and you have the stopper in the chair, and then you just squeeze your behind and bring you back up. And you can even use weights, but there again, be very mindful using weights. So if you're gonna do a deadlift, you want your feet about hip distance apart, shoulders roll back and down, back flat. You're gonna slide the weights down the front of your body. You're gonna stop when you feel yourself about to round, squeeze your behind to bring you back up. Notice I have a slight bend in my knees, and this helps take the strain off of my hamstrings, or else the whole thing just turns into a hamstring exercise. And we want to target our hamstrings a little bit, but by putting that bend in the knees, we're able to focus a little bit more on our glutes, our behinds. The top of the movement, roll the shoulders back and down, squeeze the butt. Two more. Okay. So if you want to do an active rest, you can always go back to what you've already done, marching in place, jumping jacks. You can do slow mountain climbers or fast mountain climbers, or you can just rest. Few more seconds. Good. Everybody's so perky this morning. I love it. Okay. We're going to go back into the squats. So again, feel free to use a chair. And don't feel like you're cheating yourself, because if this sets you up in the right position where you can really keep your weight sunk down into your heels and focus on that squeeze as you come up, this makes you so much more solid in everything you do. If you feel stable here, just remember, you're sinking back. My knees are not going anywhere close to past my toes. I'm rolling my shoulders back and down, lifting my chest. You'll hear some people say to kind of look up when you squat. I'm not really a fan of that because I feel like we tend to really strain our necks when we do it. But instead, just focus on that lift in the chest. That really helps keep your back a little bit more upright. Okay, now on this next one, we're going to get halfway into the squat and we're going to pulse. Squeeze the behind. Couple more. Okay, so either go back to your good morning, which is right here. You can grab the weights, kind of use your chair as a bumper, or we'll go into our standard deadlifts. Again, flat back, slide the weights down the legs, stop when your back's about to round, squeeze your behind to bring you back up. Again, core is engaged all the way around the spine. If you can really start to envision all those core muscles all around the trunk of the body, hugging in and supporting the spine, after a while, your body will start activating it without you even thinking. So when you go to pick up a heavy bag of dog food or whatever, and you're not paying attention, it's okay. Your body's on autopilot. It braces your core to support your spine, and you don't get hurt. Two more. Okay, next opportunity for active rest. So you've got your different options. You can go ahead and start now. You've got jumping jacks, marching in place, mountain climbers, anything that's going to get your heart rate up. Or if you're really challenging yourself, maybe you just spend these few seconds recovering, catching your breath, drinking water. It comes down to where you are in life and what your goals are. Few more seconds. Okay, last set. Again, you've got the option of the chair or come into your standard squat. So think about almost all of these movements we're doing are very helpful with daily activities. We want to be able to sit down and stand up our whole lives. So if you can really focus on what muscles you're working here, you're working the front of your legs, you're working your behind, you're working your back by keeping your chest lifted. All of these help keep us upright and strong. Pause in the middle and pulse. So this helps with that initial firing of the muscles to get us up off of a chair. Couple more. And come up. Deadlifts. Flat back, chest lifted. Slide the weights. Squeeze behind to bring you up. Activate all those core muscles all the way around the spine. Couple more here. Last one. Okay. Next, we are going to go into push-ups and chest press. So we're working our chest and our triceps. When we did our back, we were working our back and our biceps. Those muscles work together when we pick things up, and our chest and our triceps work together as we push things away. So this helps for us to get up off the floor, to move furniture. So unless if you are just super strong, make sure you guys can see me good. Unless if you guys are just super, super strong in a standard push-up, I really want to encourage you to do this against the wall, because we're going to set up in really good form, and this is going to be the foundation for wherever our push-ups take us. And also, again, if you're moving furniture, same thing applies here. You want to be set up in the right position to avoid injury. So you want to bring your hands slightly lower than shoulder height. Okay, so your thumbs are about in line with the midline of your chest, if that helps. Roll your shoulders back and down. This is a super important part that you should never forget. And then you're going to find a distance from the wall that's challenging but manageable. Notice how when I lower towards the wall, my elbows hug my side, and I'm able to keep my shoulders rolled back and down as I push back. Be at a distance, again, where it's challenging, but also where you can do this full range of motion, because the mistake a lot of people make is they'll be able to do half of a push-up really good. That's not going to help us at all. If someday we trip and fall and we're on the floor, if we can't get up that first half of the way, what are we going to do? So by getting as close to the wall as we can, we're working that whole chain. We're working through that whole range of motion. And again, keeping the shoulder blades pulled back and down is going to keep us stable. One more. And we're going to come to the mat for chest press. So grab a weight that feels manageable. So we're kind of lining ourselves up in this almost the same position we did at the wall. We've got our elbows about in line with the midline of the chest. As we press up, we've got a tiny bend at the top. And then as we press down, we just lightly touch the mat and go right back up. This is keeping the contraction through the whole thing. If you rest at the bottom, or you lock out your arms and you rest at the top, you're not really putting forth any effort in those seconds. So this is keeping that contraction in the chest and the triceps the whole time. And that's why we keep our arms slightly bent at the top. Couple more here. Last one. And come up. You've got 2 more opportunities for your active rest. So go ahead and take them now. You've got all your other options thus far. You've got your jumping jacks, your marching in place, your mountain climbers, or you could do a standing crunch. Really engage the core. When we get done with this, we're going to be moving on to core. And core is deliberately last because we're using our core through all these other exercises. So we don't want to fatigue it yet. But at the end of the workout, that's when we'll go ahead and let her rip and get our core nice and fatigued. Few more seconds. Okay, let's go back to the wall. Or again, if you feel good and strong and confident in your standard push-up, go ahead. But pay attention if you've got that full range of motion, because if not, you're cheating yourself. Okay, so elbows hugged in, shoulders back and down. And you have to humble yourself to do that. I was like super proud of my half push-ups, my half standard push-ups. And I had to really humble myself to scale it back. But again, I want to be able to do whatever life presents me with, including pushing myself up off the floor if I ever trip and fall. Really keep the shoulders pulled back and down, elbows hugged in, core engaged. Couple more here. Okay, back to the mat, chest press. A tiny bend at the top, lightly tap the mat at the bottom. Hold the contraction the whole time. Focus on that squeeze in the chest. You can get exponentially more out of an exercise if you really focus on squeezing the muscles you're working. Three more. Okay, last opportunity for active rest. Jumping jacks, marching in place, mountain climbers, standing crunch, or catch your breath, get some water. Last 45 seconds. Few more seconds. Good. Okay, last set of these. Back to the wall. Shoulders rolled back and down, elbows hugged in. Engage the core. And remember, if you make an adjustment where you get further or closer to the wall, adjust your hand position too. Thumbs in line with the midline of the chest. Couple more here. Okay, back to the floor. This time we're going to stay on the floor. Chest press. One more time. Make sure your elbows are below your shoulders. They should be well below your shoulders. The weight should not be over your face. They should be over the midline of your chest. Three more. Okay. We're going to do a little core series, and then we'll be done. Okay, we're going to start with a marching bridge, which technically is also legs a little bit, but I wanted to sprinkle a little bit more legs in, but it's also core. So let's start by all bringing our feet about hip distance apart, press down through the arms and the feet, and bridge up. And maybe stay right here and just focus on the squeeze all the way up and down the sides of the body. Or while keeping the hips lifted. So this is a slow movement, because what you have to do before you switch to the other side is kind of shift your weight without really moving your body. You're shifting your weight from one foot to the other. And this is really going to engage your core. If you feel this in your lower back, you're not bracing your core enough. If you brace your core and you still feel it in your lower back, hold a bridge. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. This is what's going to help strengthen that foundation. And come down. Okay, we're going to go into a standard plank. Okay, so you can come up on your toes and just a regular plank. Lift up through your chest, press your heels back, pull your belly button in. Make sure your hips aren't sagging. I'd rather see your hips a little high than too low. Or you can come down to your knees and create a nice straight line from the knees to the shoulders. Again, lifting up through the chest, engaging the core. If your wrists start to hurt, you can come down on your forearms. Few more seconds here. And come down. Okay, we're going to go into side plank now. If you know which side you struggle a little bit more in side plank, come to that side first. If side plank is just completely inaccessible for you, come back into a regular plank, okay? And just focus on squeezing all through. Again, remember, your core isn't here. Your core is all the way around the trunk of your body. So by all means, if you need to, come back into that standard plank and just close your eyes and focus on engaging those muscles all the way around the trunk of the body. Otherwise, go ahead and pop up on one side, whichever side you want to start with. And your hands should be slightly out ahead of your shoulder, just slightly. That's going to take some pressure off your wrist and your elbow and your shoulder. And then you really want to focus on getting yourself where the front of your body is facing forward. And what you might need to do to accomplish that is come down on that bottom knee. You can open this arm up, but make sure when you do that it doesn't make you kind of lean back too much. We're trying to get a nice straight line. And again, just like with a regular plank, you can always come down on your forearm if it's too much on your wrist. You always can come down on stacked knees. Again, focused on getting nice and opened up in the front of the body. And switch sides. So same thing, other side. So hopefully you did your side that's maybe not quite as stable first, because we want to match this side the same way. So a lot of times, if we start with our strong side first, then we may pop up in this regular side plank and feel good and strong and hold it for a long time. And then we get to the other side and we can't. Maybe we have to come down on our knees. So what you want to do is you want to target that side you struggle with first, so you can mimic the same thing on your other side, so you don't create a muscular imbalance or exacerbate one. A few more seconds here. And come down. Okay, on your back. We're going to go into bicycles. So like I talked about last week, I just want to revisit it in case if anybody wasn't on. Putting your hands under your hips helps tilt your pelvis and protect your lower back. So that's always a good, safe option. But while it protects you in the short term, what it doesn't do is target that area that's weak. So what I want you to try and do first, start by putting your feet flat. Engage these muscles through the front of the body and tilt your pelvis up. So you're peeling your tailbone up off the floor and really engage in these muscles in the front. This, in essence, is doing the same thing that sliding your hands under your hips is doing, except you're activating those muscles that will help keep your pelvis in a good, safe position. So if you can do this, if you can keep this pelvic tilt in these next two exercises by engaging the muscles, do it. But as soon as those muscles start to fatigue or your back feels unstable, put your hands under your hips. Okay, so we're going to go into bicycles, but remember, you can always omit the upper part of the body and put your hands under your hips, but just try that pelvic tilt at first and see how long you can engage it. We're going to rotate right elbow to left knee, slowly come center and other side. Make sure you're breathing. Neck should be relaxed. Check in, make sure you're still tilting that pelvis on your own. If you get to a point where you can't do it, or no matter what you do, your back keeps popping and cracking, then the hands go under the hips. Or maybe you try backing off the movement, maybe not going as deep, see if that helps. But you're always trying to avoid chronic popping and crunching and pain, sharp pain. One more each side. Okay, we're going to end with leg hovers. Now this is another one. It's super important that you create that pelvic tilt yourself or that you put your hands under your hips. It's super, super important. So I'm going to show you your different options. Your first option is to create that pelvic tilt and maybe drop your knees just a tiny bit. Okay, so I started here, maybe I'm dropping them this much. I'm focusing on engaging these muscles that support my pelvis, and this is where I stay. Or maybe I drop one foot, drop the other foot. Still very stabilizing. Always being mindful with that pelvic tilt, or extend my legs out for leg hover. Make sure you're breathing. And while you've obviously got tension through your belly, try and relax your face and your neck. If you need to, scale it back some. Maybe bend your knees. Do whatever you need to do. Few more seconds. And come down. Okay, we're going to go into another bridge. This is going to be a more passive bridge to stretch. So you can walk your feet a little closer, not too close. Go ahead and bridge your hips up. And then you can walk your shoulders together and interlace your hands if that feels good. And come down. Go ahead and come into a tabletop. You're going to thread your right arm under your left arm, drop down on the right shoulder, and either stay here or walk that left hand out, and this might be enough, or you can walk it over to the right. And slide that hand back in, other side. Extend the left arm out. Maybe you walk that right hand out and maybe to the left. Or maybe this side doesn't feel right and you don't do it on this side. And slowly come up. Step the left foot forward. So you're going to come back to that same pelvic tilt like we did when we were doing our core exercises, but now we're tilting so that we can really feel this stretch down the front of this extended leg. And what you may find is that just a little bit of movement while still keeping that pelvic tilt, a little bit of movement back and forth will help loosen it up a little bit. Maybe even just a little bit of rotation, rotating one way and the other. But most importantly, keep that pelvic tilt, not so much to support anything right now, but because that's what really helps open up the hip. Okay, now we're going to hinge back and hover over the left leg. See if you can flex that foot so that you're also stretching the calf muscle. Sometimes we think we have tight hamstrings when really we have tight calves. And other side, same thing. Step the right foot forward. Get tall, tilt the pelvis. Maybe add a little bit of a rock. Maybe even a little bit of rotation. And hinge back. Flex the right foot, hover over the right leg. Notice how when you really flex, it changes the stretch. You start to feel it a lot more in the calf. And then if you can stay a little bit lifted through the chest, that changes the stretch too. So you can just play around with that. Okay, come to a seated position. We're going to start with nice wide legs. Flex the feet. And what you may need to do is just put your hands behind your back and get nice and tall. And if you're super tight through your inner thighs or your hamstrings, you might stay right here. Or otherwise, you can start to walk forward, but make sure you keep that flex and that your knees don't pop up. And maybe you sway side to side a little bit here, or even maybe lean into it, come out of it a little bit. Always breathing deeply. That's the other key to stretching. Okay, and then cross the right leg in front, stack the left leg over, sit up nice and tall. Maybe this is a little too much. Maybe you need to straighten the right leg. That's okay. Get nice and tall. And then right hand comes to the left knee and twist. Unwind, other side. Get nice and tall. So you guys remember tomorrow, Autumn has her new chair yoga at 1. I highly encourage you to check it out. People are really loving it. You can still get a good workout. Don't think just because you've got a chair you won't. Left hand to the right knee and twist. And then tomorrow evening, I've got the 6:30 peaceful yoga class. And then on Thursday, Autumn's got her new HIIT yoga at 12. So it's just a 30-minute kind of fast-paced